Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share my experience with taking the PTE Academic Test. This video will be divided into three parts. The first part is the background, the second part is our prep time, and the third is answering questions I've received so far. So, let's get started. So, a little bit of background. My husband and I both work as physiotherapists here in Australia, and we've been here for 4 years. We had to take the PTE academic test as part of the requirement of our residency application. Now, initially, it was just supposed to be me taking the exam, but then we found out later that day that my husband also had to take it, just as an insurance, actually, more than a need. But, we just decided to follow the advice of our migration agent. And so we found out on the 17th that I had to take the exam initially, and I tried to book for the next day at around 12 o'clock in Sydney. And then they wouldn't let me do it because you need at least 24 hours to book for the exam. So I booked it on Wednesday at 12 instead. And then later that night, my husband also booked for the same time slot as me. So at least, that was good because we got to do it together. And then, yeah, that's like the briefest of backgrounds. So let's move on to the next part. So, prep time. I found out about having the need to take the test Monday afternoon, and I still had notes. I still had so many things that I needed to do for work. So essentially, I was able to prepare between 5 to 6:30 in the afternoon because I had to go to pickleball and to the gym after. So I was gone from 6:30 to I think 10 in the evening. And then my initial preparation consisted of taking the mock practice tests at the Pearson website, and that scared me because I thought it was going to be easy. People told me it was easy, but it is not easy. I'm not very good at impromptu conversations and stuff like that. So I was low key panicking, but of course, pickleball is life. So I still went and played pickleball. So when I arrived after gym, I showered for a bit and then I continued my preparation. And that's when I found out PTE success. And I just continued to take a lot of their practice mock tests and all that just so that, I get the hang of like the test itself. The main part that I was studying was speaking and writing. I didn't prepare for the listening or the reading. So the next day, Tuesday, went to work. Throughout the day, I just kept scrolling on TikTok because there's a lot of creators on TikTok who shares their experience, and a lot of people are also giving out templates and such. So I was just looking at it just to try to get an idea of how to answer some of the questions and all that. And Tuesday, I was able to prepare maybe 4 hours in total because I still played pickleball. So I practiced from 4 to 6:30, and then I stayed up late until, so I think I practiced from 10 to 12:30 on Tuesday. So that's what I did. I tried to take the mock test and then I couldn't finish it because I was too tired and too sleepy. So I said, okay, this is for the next day. So that was my Tuesday. Wednesday, woke up early, finished the mock test, and then we drove to Sydney. We live 2.5 hours away from the test center, so we used that time. I was the one driving the first part of the trip, and we used that time to practice answering the short answers, the what do you call when this and that, blah, 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 blah. So we spent that time answering. We just went to Google to look for questions that PTE usually asks. So that's just what we used. So in total, I think my prep time would be maybe, let's say, 4 hours on Monday. Let's just put 5 hours on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, let's just put another 4 hours. So yeah, that took us around 13 hours if my math is correct. That took us 13 hours to prepare for, that took me 13 hours to prepare for the mock test. My husband's a different story. He started practicing between 10 in the evening, no, 10:30 in the evening, and he finished the mock exam, and that's all he did. The mock exam, and then the next day when we did the answering back and forth with the short answers, that's all his prep time. So let's say 4 hours of prep time. So that's essentially our prep time. Sorry, I keep saying prep time. So 13 hours for me, let's say 4 or 5 hours for my husband. And the reason why we didn't really take a lot longer to prepare for it was because we thought, okay, the goal was just to pass. We needed to at least have competent English, which is around 51. So we just didn't aim to get perfect or whatever. We just wanted to pass. So that ends the second portion of the video.
So
And
before I start the next part of this video, I just want to put out a disclaimer to say that I am not an expert when it comes to this. I'm merely just sharing what I did and what worked for me. So it's up to you if you want to follow. And I just hope that what worked for me will work for you. So, let's just keep going. So I'm going to go through each section of the exam. So from speaking to writing to reading and listening. I think I'll be speaking more about speaking and writing just because I spent more time preparing on those two. Whereas reading and listening, I only brushed up on it when I did the mock test, but I'll still share what I did to handle each section. So the website looks like this. So there are some examples, and there is AI that'll help you improve and sort of give you a score and tell you how you did and where you could improve on. So, yep, that's it. Let's start. So, first off is speaking. The first section of speaking, we have read aloud, and I must say it's one of the easiest part of the exam because all you need to do is to read, right? But I would suggest that you really do take the 40 seconds to read through the whole paragraph so that you can take into account the commas, um, any difficult words to pronounce. You can sort of practice before the timer starts. And that's what worked for me. And it's good if you read it naturally, you know, it's like how you would usually read it because there was this lady who took the test with me, and how she said it was this like, for any marketing course that requires the development of marketing plans such as marketing management, marketing strategy, and segmentation. That's how she was reading it out loud. And I don't know what score she got, but the prompt is for you to read it loudly, naturally, clearly as possible. So I think that don't just if you're rapping, right? So always try to read it very naturally, enunciate the words that you're speaking, and you should be good. So that's the first section, read aloud. Next is repeat sentence. I feel like repeat sentence was the hardest for me, especially because I don't have the best listening skill. So what I did was put that there. I'm wearing my headphones, right? And I just press it down like that, close my eyes, and just focus on what I'm listening to, right? Because if you remove the other senses, the idea is that it'll heighten your other senses. So by closing my eyes, I was hoping that, you know, my sense of hearing would heighten, and it worked. So I didn't write. I tried writing it during the practice when I was practicing, and it only made me confused. So I would just close during the test, I would just close my eyes and then try to listen and try to repeat it word for word as much as I could. And for the most part, I was able to do that. There was this one example that I got distracted by. the background noise, like by other people taking the test. And for sure, I did not say the whole sentence correctly, but I didn't stop. I didn't stutter. I didn't say, "I sorry, that was wrong," or I didn't. I just kept going, and I feel like that's what you should do if you're in that situation. You don't, if you don't remember what was being said, just say the first thing that was in your head and just go with it. Just act natural. Because that's what I did. I think I forgot a key word there, and then I just went along with it. I just finished the sentence. I didn't stop, stutter, or anything like that. So just keep going. Just keep going. If you make a mistake, you're only meant to remember at least 50 to 60% of the words anyway. So try not to worry too much in this section. So that was for repeat sentence. Next is summarize group discussion. So what I did with this, they will give you like a paper, like it was an erasable sheet. And what I did, I put one, two, and three, and then on top I just put topic. So and they are pretty clear with a topic. They'll just say like a group of friends, we're talking about this. So I just put the main topic on top, and then I listened to what the first speaker was saying. I just wrote down 2 to 3 points of what they were saying, and then the second speaker, and then the third speaker. After the third speaker says something, typically the first speaker talks about it again, and um, just to remove a lot of confusion, what I do is I use after the third speaker talks, I use whatever is being said after that as the conclusion, just so that I have something to say to conclude the message and it works. So you just need to really listen to what the speakers are saying. And again, speak clearly. You can only just say 2 to 3 words instead of saying, first speaker said this, and then the second speaker said this, and then the third. No, you can only say the first. They were talking about this topic. The first speaker mentioned this and this and this. The second speaker's stance is this and this and this, while the third speaker said that's this and this and this. In conclusion, this is what they agreed upon, or they this is what the outcome of the conversation was. So don't don't think too much about adding every little thing that they said. You just need to remember or to write down specific details maybe, or 2 to 3 things, and then just talk about that. Again, it's more, as much as it is important to say the details, it's also with how you deliver what you're saying, right? So just pick a few details and just go along with it. That's what I did for summarize group discussion. Fourth is describe image. Now this is the one that was really hard for me to do, just because I'm sure you guys are how many minutes into this video. I'm sure you've noticed that I tend to ramble and I tend to stutter and I tend to take time sometimes to think about what I'm going to say. So this was really hard for me. And there were a few TikTok creators online that gave some, they gave some, this is an example, right? So they gave some tips on how to go about describe image, and it really helped. One of the ones that really helped was to differentiate what a line graph was, what a pie chart was, what a bar graph, or whatever those things are, so that you can properly say it when you see it, right? Another tip that helped me was from my husband, and then he said that just imagine that you are describing the image to someone who can't see the image. And I get that's the whole point of this exercise or this part of the test, but visualizing it like that really helped me a lot. And so, like, let's give this one example, and I'm going to put that to share that to you. How I went about it is this image shows off a bar graph, detailing the British Columbia coffee and tea manufacturing sales totals as of 2018. Along the x-axis, we have the different months from August to December, whereas in the y-axis, we have them in dollars ranging from 0 to 40,000. According to this graph, graph, we can derive the information that November had the most in sales with just about $35,000, whereas September had the least amount of sales, which is just above $20,000. And in conclusion, we found that we typically have more sales in in November and less sales in September. So something like that. I during the test, that's just how I did it too. I You could see that I was stuttering. I had a bit of trouble with finding the right words to say, but then I just went along with it, and it was very conversational, which I feel like it helped with the score, which is why I got the score that I got. So yeah, hopefully that helps. So just imagine that you're talking to a friend and your friend can see what you're seeing, so you're describing the image with graphs and charts and all that. After you, let's say you describe what's in the x-axis and the y-axis, you can then just find the highest, um let's say the highest value, and then compare it to the lowest value, and then just derive your conclusion from that. But the fifth one is respond to a situation. And this was very funny for me because I know there are a lot of templates online, but when you're in the moment, that sort of just flies out of your head, right? Sorry. So what I did was I just placed myself in that situation. I pretended that, I was actually there, and then just responded to how I would usually would. So let's say with this one, the question is, while visiting a doctor for a routine checkup, they mention a new medication for your condition that you're unfamiliar with. You have concerns about potential side effects. How would you express these concerns and ask the doctor for more information about the medication? So the tip is to always be polite when handling this situation. So you can say, "Hey, doctor, thank you so much for handling my case and for recommending this new medication. However, I'm not very familiar with this and I'm worried about the potential side effects. Can you please talk me through what this medication does? What does it do for me? What are the potential side effects that I should look for? And any other thing you can tell me about this medication. Thank you." So something like that, like how you would normally would if you were in that situation. So I feel like this is the best time, for if you guys are aspiring actors. So this is this method of looking at it, or looking at this part of the exam, helped me, so that I sort of know what to say. And it's also important to mention everything that they're looking for. So they were mentioning about the new medication. So there are keywords, right, that you have to mention when you are responding to the situation. So you have to mention about the new medication, your condition, the fact that you're unfamiliar with it, the concerns, side effects, and then asking for information. Also, doctor. So make sure that when you are answering this, that you also mention those keywords that they're looking for. So yeah, that's how I respond to a situation. And lastly, for speaking, it's retell lecture. Retell lecture was also pretty hard, but how I did it was, during the while I was listening, I tried to write down key information um during the lecture. I didn't write word for word because then you wouldn't have enough time, and I'm not a very fast writer. So I tried to just pick out main words and focused on what the topic was about, gave 2 to 3 examples, and then conclusion. When you're in this, just try to write down as many words, keywords that you can find. Focus on just the topic, and it's during the exam, the topic is pretty clear. And then you write at least three things talking about the topic, and then just put in your conclusion, and that should be more than enough. So next we have writing. We have essay and summarize written text. Essay was a bit easier for me because then you only have like you have a lot of time. You have 20 minutes to do it. Be mindful of the words. Don't go under or above the 200 to 300 words, otherwise they won't give you a score for that. Apparently, that's what I heard from the TikTok videos. Um so how like the template that comes to mind with this is you have to give like the first paragraph, right? You provide an intro, then you answer the question that they're wanting you to answer, and on that same paragraph you give out the reasons why that is what you believe in. And then after that, the succeeding paragraphs, you would have to expound on why, like on each of the reasons that you gave in the first paragraph, and then the last paragraph is your conclusion. So example, one of the things here says when computers first appeared on the scene, it was thought they would make us more productive in providing goods and services, smarter and possibly happier. Skeptics claim that the opposite is true, as computers have proved disappointing in terms of productivity and have made us less happy and more stupid because information is not knowledge. Which of these points of view do you agree with most? Support your argument with reasons and or examples from your own experience and observation. So how I would go about with this is first you have to take a stand. So for me, I do think that computers have made us more productive. It made us smarter and possibly happier. And then so that's what I would like. I would maybe I have the hardest part of this for me is the intro because then I once I get it started then it's a lot easier. How I would go about this would be possibly um I grew up with computers for the most part of my life, and I would have to agree that it made me more productive, and these are the reasons why. So I could say that let's say it helped me study more. It helped me with providing services to other people, and it also helped entertain me in times when I was feeling down. So then, let's just go with those three reasons, right? So that's your first paragraph. The second to third paragraph, depending on how many reasons you provided, that's when you talk more about it. So with me for for the second paragraph, I would say that it helped me study more because then I didn't have to go to the library to gain information. All I need to do was search through the internet, search through research and all that. It was a lot easier for me to gain information or gain the knowledge to blah 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 blah. So something like that. I hope that was a little bit clear. And then at the end of it, you can always say, like my husband told me that the last part of his essay, his conclusion was just one sentence. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need to close the essay. So you can say that that is why I believe that computers have helped people be more productive, smarter, and happier. So hopefully that helps. But that was how I tackled the essay part. So that template would help you sort of organize your thoughts. And yeah, so let's go to the next one. Summarize written test. I feel like this is the hardest for me During the test, they didn't give us like a word count, but it's good to have it. Like for this, it says there is a maximum of 75 words. So if they give you a limit to how many words you can use, always just be mindful of that. For summarized written text, I would have to say that you try to read, of course, read the whole text. Try to get the main idea of it. After you get the main idea, you sort of have to figure out also what are the supporting ideas to the main idea. And that's where it gets tricky because, like, I didn't have a lot of time to study up on how to use semicolons or like however, furthermore, and all that. So I relied heavily on commas. So with this example, let's see if I can give. It is the purpose of history to promote a strong national identity and support national myths. Certainly, it has been used in this way for centuries, and this is often reflected in the history curriculum. We can all remember history at school as being matter of learning lots of facts and dates and long lists of kings and queens, grand narrative of how we got from a not so civilized past to the great nation we are today. Putting aside the national identity, blah 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 blah. So according to this very long text, which I won't bore you with, it talks about history, right? So you can always say that history has been very important for the following reasons. You can say that for the following reasons, dot dot, or like colon, or maybe that's not. History has a lot of purposes, namely, so you can put the supporting details that's talking about history, and I feel like that's just what you should be mindful about. You don't have to expand so much or give details that aren't very relevant, as long as you give out the main topic and the reasons, the main reason supporting your main topic, and then sort of brief conclusion. That should be it. When it comes to structuring the sentence itself, I wish I could help you more with that, but it's kind of this one took me a while too. I had a hard time with this, and I just went along with it. I didn't have high expectations with that section of the test, but then I don't know, somehow it worked. So keep practicing. With PTE success again, there is a section where, after you've put in the answers, it'll give you feedback on what to do, and then they will also give you an example on how to answer it. So I hope that would help you. Next, reading. So this one I'll just go pretty fast. For single answer, there's a lot of resources online that that sort of talks about like the previously asked questions and what questions they usually ask. So on the drive to Sydney, this is what my husband and I were just doing. We're just asking each other questions like this. And I have no idea if I got everything right because there are certainly some of them that I didn't. But I feel like it's just how you answer that that helps. So I don't know how specific or how accurate your answers have to be, but I think like it's just more on their wanting you to they wanted to know the extent of your vocabulary, I'm guessing. So, but still doesn't hurt to practice single answers. That's fun. Next is multiple answers. I feel like this one took me a long time during because like reading was honestly the hardest part of the exam for me because it took me a long time to figure out the answers. I almost ran out of time and couldn't finish. So this one you have to take time. What helped for me is I read all the choices, which gave me an idea on what to look out for. So when I'm reading the text, then I said, "Oh, I remember this word." Then I look and then sort of just cross out as I go along. And that's really helped me save up on time. So you can do that. And after you finish the initial read through, look through your answers again and then read through them again. But again, don't spend so much time on it because there's still a lot more to go. Next, we have reorder paragraphs. For this one, you have to just take note of the key details, and there's also like words like but, therefore, also. So naturally you would think that okay, that's not going to go first, right? So you have to look for the full sentence with the main idea on the topmost part, and then just try to connect the succeeding paragraphs and you should be all good. So for fill in the blanks, that's next, is you just need to read and fill in the blanks. Well, what makes the most sense? Sometimes the answer or the context goes after. There's also context before, but try to, after you've filled out most of the boxes, read through them one time and see if it makes sense. Again, don't spend too long on this because there's still others that will require more time, for right? The last of the reading, it's just fill in the blanks as well, but you are given choices. This is where your command or your vocabulary really sets in. Some words are easy. With me, there were obvious words that I know that for sure those were the answers, but there were also some that it was quite confusing and I had to read it again and again just to make sure that it clicked in my head that that was the correct answer. So that I feel like this section took the most time because I was second guessing myself and I wanted to make sure that I answered it correctly. And the last part is listening. So listening was by far the easiest, I feel like, which was very confusing for me because like it's pretty clear. So let's start with single answers. You listen to the text, and then after you listen to the text, then you have to just get the gist of the um like just answer below. So what I did here was I listened to the text and just took short notes, and then once it was done, then it was easier for me to answer which one was the answer that they were looking for. Yeah. The hardest one was multiple answers because it was pretty confusing, especially if you have to listen to a recording and then pick out the like multiple answers. That one was pretty hard. So for that one, I still continued to just write down as much of the main points as I can, and then just compared my notes to the choices. Alternatively, you can also put in like your as you are listening, you listen for you look at the choices, and then once you hear something contradicting, then at least you can press that one as the one that is true or that one as false. So those are the two things to look out for if you're at the multiple answers. But yeah, multiple answers was pretty difficult. This answer short questions. So this one was you just try to answer as much as you can. Often just a few words is enough. Don't overcomplicate things. Right from dictation is as the person is talking, then you just have to type it. Just fairly straightforward. Highlight correct summary. Make sure this one was also pretty hard. So as similar to multiple answers, the two ways that I went about with this is I took down notes and I also tried to read through the questions as the person was talking. So whichever works best for you, yeah, that's just how I went with that. Highlight incorrect words was pretty easy. You just need to listen to the sentence and just go word for word. Fill in the blanks is the same. You just need to really listen clearly for what the audio recording is saying, and then you just need to fill in the blanks. Summarize spoken text for this one. As the speaker was talking, I was typing down everything I could remember from what they were saying, or as they were just writing down everything that I hear, right? And then after that, then I summarize it. At least I have those notes down there. And a lot of the times it's similar to that the one in writing. So it's just trying to summarize everything you've written down. So again, always you don't have to say everything, just the main topic and the supporting details. The supporting details of the supporting details, you don't need to do that. Select missing word. Yeah, select missing word was also pretty good. Yeah, you just need to tick and then see. It's actually fill in the blanks, but you're listening. So yeah, that's it. Sorry I couldn't give really a lot of um, information when it comes to reading and listening, just because I didn't really spend a lot of time in that area. Although I must say reading was definitely the most difficult part of the exam. And yeah, so that ends the video. And if there's any last minute tips I can give you, is just to pray. I don't think that we could have gotten the score that we had if we didn't pray about it, because the Lord has already given you the skills to be able to do this exam. It's just you need to ask the Lord for um, maybe to have clear ears, for good memory, for you to be able to enunciate and speak clearly. Just ask for the skills that you need to be able to finish this test, and He will answer. So, yeah, good luck with your exam. If you have any more questions, please feel free to comment them down below, and I'll try to answer as much of it as I can. So, sorry this video took so long, but I hope it helps someone. So, see you in the next video. Bye.